amendment if you wanted to keep those number of units, or you could lower it to, I think, around 105 is the maximum. And that's when you wouldn't need to do that amendment, and that would save you some time and also around $8,000. And then I guess speaking on units, I did have a couple questions. Are these units market rate? Do you know if these units will be market rate? Okay. Okay. And then, do you know if they're going to be for rent or ownership? Ownership, okay. So I did have some preliminary parking calculations, but because they are ownership, I have to redo them a little bit, so I won't have a firm answer for you there. But that's good to know. So I spoke on density. Based on the site plan, I did bring it to some other planners to look at, and because it is so close to the train station, like literally diagonal to the site, we would prefer it if the development was more street facing and wasn't so focused towards itself, just because it's better for a streetscape, better interaction with the surrounding community. I know you mentioned that the surrounding area is not, it's very industrial right now. It's not very residential or like walking friendly as of currently. That's because the train station specific plan, um, in terms of just long-term city, it is relatively new, and we're still looking for development, and people are still like buying parcels and owning them and working on developing them. So later down the line, it will have that vision for a more walkable um, area. And so we want any kind of new development coming in this area to start off on that foot as well. So I'm not sure if you're amenable to changing this circular design a little bit, just because it is more like inwards looking right now. Maybe like 2 rows that like you could have like an internal area. So like a row here and then a row that's a little more street facing, just like have a little bit more interaction with the street would be nice in terms of site planning. Um, and then you mentioned building height, the setbacks, kind of all the other items like setbacks, landscaping, and parking may also change if you change the actual site plan and building orientation. So I'll just ask that if you do go for a formal submittal, that you provide the proper setbacks and open space calculations, since I didn't see them on these conceptual plans, and we'll need those for a formal review. Um, Recreation amenity wise, you did mention the community center in the center, and that's great. The number of units that this development proposes would require one, what we determine as one major and one minor amenity. The community center, which you mentioned is kind of more like a media lounge slash like working center for the residents, that way you would categorize as a minor amenity. A major amenity would be something like a basketball court, handball court, childcare facility, like a large gym. So we'll need something a little more substantial in addition to um, like that lounge. It can be indoors or outdoors, doesn't matter like the the format of the amenity, just as long as we categorize as a major amenity. And like you said, it's okay if it's just for the residents. That's not an issue. The amenities are typically um, required for the residents of the development. And then just a couple of notes. For this area, a continuous maintenance and management program is required. And then we'll also need an on-site resident property manager. And then the biggest item is this is in what we call the train station specific plan, planning area 1, which does have a master plan unit development for the area, but I think there hasn't been any actual development yet. No like specific projects that are in construction um, or have building permits. And so if you are one of the first developments to develop in this planning area, as part of the MPUD, there is a common benefit and cost sharing analysis that determined each parcel's contribution to the public improvements that are required as part of the planning area, as well as shared private infrastructure for the whole planning area. So I know you're the architect, but for the client to know, if they're one of the first people to develop, they're going to have to bear the majority of the cost for their segments, as well as for that private infrastructure initially, since they're the first ones. And later they will be reimbursed by the other parcels surrounding that also benefit from that infrastructure. But that'll be a later date. So a lot of the upfront cost is on this first development. Um, I don't know if there's, I don't think that's in the same planning area. They're in separate planning areas. Um, and we do have a cost sharing document that I can send to you later that goes in detail the portions of road and infrastructure that each parcel is responsible for and how it was calculated. So I can email that to you later.
Lynn, I have a questions.
Yes.
Is there any incentive from the city, like in terms of, if the client will be the first one who actually kick off the development, any incentive, like, and that, or maybe can help with the amendment of the, number of units or all those kind?
Unfortunately, we don't have any like
Mhm.
incentives at the moment for first developers in the area.
Okay.
And then that's it from planning so far. I think a lot of it also hinges on the new site plan that's more geared towards the street. We'll be able to give like a better feel on the setback requirements if we receive like a revision on that. But I can also, we can move on and I'll kick it to my colleagues. I will popcorn our public works department. Tina wants to chime in from traffic.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to start off by saying that this proposal will require an initial traffic assessment. So, VMT, trips generation, how many trips will this proposal generate? We'll need to see AM peak and PM peaks, as well as daily trips generated. But I could also send you our guidelines, so that's a little bit more straightforward. The assessment should also talk about circulation. And I know you mentioned the circular circulation. That is very unique and not, what we've seen in the city. But whatever design you do end up with, we'll need to understand better, like how vehicles are going to travel on and off site. Especially with fire and garbage vehicles. How are they going to access? Where are they going to access areas? And you'll need to include a truck turning exhibit for these movements. The truck turning template should show, proper turning radii. And I'll let Stephen and Corey talk on those. Let's see, you have a gate. Generally, our requirement is from the back of the sidewalk to the gate, there should be at least 25 feet to make up for any vehicles that are queuing. We don't want vehicles obstructing the sidewalk or stacking onto a public roadway. And the width of the driveways should be about 24 feet for bidirectional travel. And the driveways are along Peabody and Cement Hill, so these are going to be right in, right outs only. Yeah, I think generally we just need to see an initial traffic assessment done before we can really, give, substantial analysis or comments. Let me know if you have any questions, but those are my comments. You're welcome.
Thank you, Tina. We'll pop it on over to Corey.
Hey, again, thanks for meeting with me. So again, I oversee the city's solid waste and recycling program. Looking at this, let's kind of number building number 1 at the bottom left. Number 2 would be the closest, and then kind of going around. So from a trash circulation standpoint, having a real hard time visualizing how this would work. On page 7 of your plans, you're showing that the trash enclosures are located on the first floor of each of the individual buildings. So for Republic Services, the city's waste hauler, in order for them to service all of these individual units, they would first have to come into the property, turn right, get building number 1, reverse backwards to building number 2, reverse backwards, continue to number 3, number 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then reverse all the way backwards around the entire ring road. Republic Services typically tries to limit their amount of reversal to about 100 feet. So you can imagine going from building number 7 in the bottom right-hand corner all the way back out to the outer ring road is going to exceed that 100 feet threshold. So really, we're just looking for better circulation as a whole from solid waste. And as I see it, the current designed layout really cannot accommodate that. And that's all for me, Elin.
Thank you, Corey. I guess since we're talking about circulation still, we'll go to Steve for fire.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, are these podium buildings?
I think they are, yes. The parking's on the first floor.
Okay, yeah, so that access for sure, meeting our minimum and maximum inside radius. We have 28 and 48 inside, 28 outside 48. Our turning templates, as Tina mentioned, definitely like to see that. Based on the height, our aerial ladder trucks and accessible locations on a 24/7 is always a concern. We do have gate standards, and then also a secondary access point. This paved area, that would have to meet normal weight limits and requirements for our apparatus if we utilize that and determine that to be our secondary EVA. But other than that, I mean, normal sprinkler, fire alarm, underground fire lines, all submitted directly to us, and that's down the road. But yeah, access, the gate standard with Knox block requirements. We have standards for all those, but those are my initial concerns. But the parking for sure is a concern, along with your community center building. But again, if it meets our minimum standards, it's not something we can't overcome. But that's stuff I'd be having comments down the road on for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then last but not least, we'll go to Kayla. She's our Public Works Development Engineer.
Yeah, thank you. So as Yulin mentioned, this property is within the train station specific plan. And so as part of the train station specific plan, property owners are to make a irrevocable offer of dedication to the city for future Peabody and Cement Hill Road widening improvements. And so if this development were to come through, just a heads up, we would be requiring the property owner to dedicate at least a 30-foot wide swath along the Peabody and Cement Hill Road frontages. And then I'm not sure, Fumio and Sally, if you're familiar with our regional stormwater permit. But as far as stormwater regulations, I'm almost certain that this development will trigger C3 requirements. So what that entails is if your development were to create 5,000 square feet or more of impervious surface area, which I'm almost certain it does, you would just need to implement some sort of LID treatment measures. So most of the time, people come in and build bioretention basins. And so I think you should be able to fit that in on your site plan, just considering how much greenery you have already. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then the last major comment I have, I'm not sure if you have a civil engineer on board or if your client is planning on bringing a civil engineer on board, but if you do plan to have stormwater drainage infrastructure on site, I did notice that our storm drain main doesn't reach either of the frontages of this parcel. I think the closest storm drain main infrastructure is quite a ways to the west side of this parcel. And so as part of this development, we would require that the developer extend the storm drain main up to the frontage of their project and connect their on-site storm drain infrastructure to the main at the frontage. Mhm. Okay. Um,
I don't think
yeah,
that
it's kind of a loaded question because I mean it depends also on the drainage of the site and yeah. Okay. Mhm. Sorry, I guess I wasn't clear. It would be a 30-foot wide swath along the Cement Hill and Peabody Road frontages. So you'd be measuring from the edge of the property and then 30 feet inward. Yeah. Well, you have a 50, it looks like a 52-foot setback already on the Peabody Road and then already a 22-foot setback there. It's just it's a it's a dedication for future. Correct, yeah. And so the 30-foot wide swath would just encompass the right of way for the city when future improvements for the road widening comes into place. Mm,
correct.
I believe that's correct, right, Yulin?
Yeah. So when the development comes in, that's when we get the, or that's we're actually getting IODs from a lot of the other uses currently, because we do have interim use permits for the uses over there. Like all the industrial uses aren't allowed in the TSSP as per the plan, but because they're pre-existing, we allow them to operate in the interim. But as part of their use permit, we do require them to give us that dedication of right of way. So yes, all properties in the TSSP do have some sort of IOD requirement if they front those streets that require it. I actually don't know the financials that go into it. But I know we do have that IOD. I don't really know the development portion of it though.
Yeah, I don't think there. I'd have to check in, but I don't think there is a bond associated with it. You would just need to record a document with the county saying this property owner dedicates this amount of property to the city.
Yes.
Correct.
And then anything else, Kayla?
Those are just my major comments for now. I think maybe later down the road and when there's a more um, complete set of plans, I'll have more comments.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And then I wanted to circle back with Corey on the like trash receiving procedures. What's like the ideal how they would maneuver to receive trash given the what's it called, podium parking, and I think
Yeah,
the trash enclosures are on the bottom as well.
correct. So typically, again, we are looking more for a direct or head-on approach. So these buildings would be more of a commercial service. So they would be a bin rather than like a cart, right? So because of that, the truck itself is going to stab on the front of the bin, take the trash, dump it up and over. So again, kind of how we have everything oriented right now wouldn't allow our public services the ability to have the turn radius to do that head-on turn. So just another point to it, Elin, you know, we wouldn't be opposed to having more of a centralized trash enclosure area. It's, kind of what I'm a little curious too on how this exact floor plan is going to work. Are you going to utilize a chute system, or are you going to require that residents take all of their trash down to the first floor? Yeah, we've been seeing more of that, kind of having that trash valet service is kind of the terminology that we've been seeing, kind of to your point, where yes, there is an individual or a firm more or less who goes around and collects waste from each of the individual units and then takes that waste to a centralized collection facility. That is something that we are open to. We do include additional language in our CCNRs to ensure that trash valet service maintains through the entirety of the project, but it is an option. I would recommend that you look into our trash enclosure standards and guidelines. If you do a Google search, we have all of those available, indicating how many trash enclosures would be needed for a property of this size, general requirements for the trash enclosures, design guidelines, the full spectrum. Correct. And I saw that. And again, kind of my point is I'm not sure how Republic Services would be able to access this. The trash collection company with the ring road system right now, you're gonna have to require that they reverse backwards around the entire outside perimeter ring, which is just something that we will not accept at this level. Again, we are looking for about 100 to 125 maximum reversing distance. Perfect. Then if you have any questions on it, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help. You're welcome.
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, and on that note, maybe in terms of like site planning reconfiguration, we can solve both like the circulation, like the trash centralized system, as well as having the buildings oriented a little differently. That's just some food for thought. I think that's all the comments from the city. Do you have any questions for us? Okay. Yeah, and if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach back out to me. I will send you that cost sharing document that I mentioned for the train station plan so you can take a look at. And yeah, if you have any other questions,